So I haven't done a film criticism is dead video in a while, but leave it to the clueless one herself, Grace Randolph, to somehow give us a worse review than the one she gave for Oppenheimer. It's kind of sad to see what passes as legit film criticism these days. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
So the latest film from legendary director Martin Scorsese has officially been released. And while it has been receiving mostly positive reviews, as it should, there were still some who felt the need to try and bring this possible modern masterpiece down. And people call me a contrarian. As always, I wouldn't judge anyone who legitimately didn't enjoy this film. I'm not so close-minded that I don't realize that a film like this isn't for everyone, but as always, it's how these supposed critics are choosing to criticize this film that's sending up so many red flags.
It fooled me, we can't get fooled again.
I refuse to believe that a person who considers themselves to be an unbiased film critic would come to some of the conclusions that these people have. People like Brian Lowry from CNN.com, who said, quote, "There's a difference between long and epic, although in movie terms, the two frequently get confused. Martin Scorsese delivers the former, but not the latter, with Killers of the Flower Moon." Listen, I understand that this is a long film, and that is a point of contention for some people, because that is the one thing that people seem to continuously bring up about Martin Scorsese and movies like this. As a critic, however, I expect a little bit more from you other than just grabbing this low-hanging fruit that is the runtime, all to justify your inability to stay focused on or process a movie.
Put some effort into it!
To suggest that this film is long but not epic is inaccurate in every way. It shows me that for whatever reason, this person is the type of person that isn't able to embrace a movie that doesn't have all the bells and whistles that your typical modern Hollywood blockbuster has. Truthfully, this film is epic in scale when you look at it from a character perspective, from a historical perspective, and from a storytelling perspective.
That makes sense.
Now, I know those three things aren't as valued as they used to be, but to completely disregard them in favor of trying to portray this film as something that it's not seems like a gross misinterpretation of the point of the film. Or maybe this person just had a personal vendetta against the film from the start because they went into it not willing to set aside the appropriate amount of time that it's going to take to decipher a film like this made by Martin Scorsese.
Congratulations. You played yourself.
Next we have Christopher Lloyd, and no, not that one. This one reviews films for Film Yap, which seems like the perfect name for the establishment that he is employed by, based on the BS that I'm about to read you. Christopher said, quote, "A ponderous, turgid low for Scorsese and company. People will focus on being too long, but the true ideal runtime would be 0 minutes. Flawed at the conceptual level, a story about the victimizing of native people that banishes those people to the background." First, to suggest that this is a career low for everyone involved is ridiculous. As far as I know, Robert De Niro's Bad Grandpa still exists. But it also comes off once again like this person went into the film with this deep-rooted personal issue with it for whatever reason. This person is actually suggesting that this film should have never been made. Imagine that. This goober from Film Yap is trying to tell Martin Scorsese, of all people, that he would have been better off using his talents elsewhere and not making this film.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
These people really do live in their own world, don't they? I sort of already addressed this main point of contention with the film in my review, but I'll take it a step further here. From what I saw, the native people are not banished to the background like this person would suggest. Their conflict and their struggle is front and center at all times. We just mostly see it through the perspective of the other side of the conflict. This story is just as much about the people who committed these atrocities as it is the native people. As I already stated, Lily Gladstone's character is the heart and soul of this film, and it does not work without her. She is our window into this world and this conflict. And the unspeakable suffering that the Osage people experienced is only made more impactful by her existence. because we get to see how these murders affect people on a more personal level.
Because it's all part of the plan.
It seems that people like this critic seem to have taken issue with the antagonists being placed at the forefront of the story. But if they weren't placed at the forefront, this whole thing would play out like a more conventional murder mystery story, and that's a lot less interesting.
No, don't like that.
I believe it was much more effective and heartbreaking to see the disregard that these villains had for these people firsthand. This just comes down to either this person misinterpreting the movie altogether, or just flat out being blissfully ignorant about its message. And last but certainly not least, we have Grace Randolph. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. How this woman got so many people to subscribe to her YouTube channel is beyond me.
I don't get it.
Grace said, quote, "Less Goodfellas, more Gangs of New York. Martin Scorsese and co-writer Eric Roth assume the audience already knows so much about this true story. There is almost no context, making the film a frustrating watch that offers more questions than answers." What's funny is that I actually mentioned Goodfellas and Gangs of New York in my own review. Only I recognize that Killers of the Flower Moon is reminiscent of both of them. I'm also going to point out that I knew very little about the actual events that inspired this movie beforehand. And yet, while watching the film, I was never once confused or unclear about what was going on.
God damn it! You're a goddamn genius!
This whole thing has typical Grace Randolph review energy. It's like when she called Oppenheimer wordy. To me, it just feels like Grace Randolph is incapable of breaking down or enjoying a film that is more sophisticated than the average schlock that she typically praises on her channel. This film does offer up a lot of questions, and yes, some things are left a bit open-ended. But that's because Martin Scorsese has a little bit more faith in some audience members' intellect than he probably should.
I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
To me, the best stories always leave something to the imagination. They leave something up to interpretation. Apparently, Grace Randolph is the type of critic who needs everything spoon-fed to her. And if that's the case, then Martin Scorsese films probably aren't for you.
It wasn't made for him.
Perhaps if she spent less time making up bogus rumors and more time perfecting her craft as a critic, only then might she be able to form some kind of rational or intellectual thought. I'm thrilled that most people who reviewed this film seem to understand its genius. It gives me hope for the future that maybe film criticism isn't completely dead, it's just on life support, and that it's still possible that real film criticism, like real filmmaking, might make a comeback at some point.
Y'all be cool. Nah.